Usually, when people are asked the question of what inspires them within the field of science, they point to a specific field or discovery. For me, it's not like that. My inspiration doesn't originate from one specific scientist or discovery. It comes from the mere understanding of scientific history, from the insight that theories that have been seen as facts for a long time can be tested and proven wrong, and that this is something that hasn't just happened in the past, but will continue to happen in the future. These people, the revolutionary scientists that barge in and turn the scientific world upside down, they are my inspiration. My name is Vera Bolmgren and I'm 16 years old. I live in Stockholm, Sweden, and I'm doing my first year at a Swedish high school called Odenplan. I think that this contest is a fantastic way to spread awareness of how much fun science and math can actually be. From my own experience, one of the biggest motivation stealers is getting stuck in the pure facts and numbers of it when you're studying science, rather than thinking about where these facts and numbers actually come from the very beginning. Because it's not very fun to just memorize the whole periodic table, because it's only a bunch of letters and numbers. But once you start thinking about people like Mendeleev, and how he actually reasoned when he stated where the different elements should go, then it becomes much more interesting. When you think about how he performed experiments for nights on end to try to prove to his fellow scientists that his version of the periodic table was right, then BAM! It's not just letters and numbers anymore. It's much more exciting than that. And on top of the fact that you are now suddenly interested in the periodic table, you also have a situation on which you can stick your knowledge. Instead of thinking, why is sodium in group 1? You can think, why did Mendeleev place sodium in group 1? And that makes it much easier to remember. People like Mendeleev, who have dared to question the entire scientific community, are extremely inspiring. But they also pose a big problem when it comes to defining what is a fact and what isn't, because with each new discovery, an old truth is put to an end. Less than 500 years ago, the main belief was still that the Earth was flat. That is, if you count the opinion of a couple of crazy people as the main belief. The actual ideological battle was staged between the belief that the Earth was the center of the universe and that the Sun was. People who supported the latter were often persecuted and punished because the belief that the Earth was not the center of the universe was not compatible with what the Church was trying to teach. In 1543, Copernicus presented a theory that suggested that it was the Sun and not the Earth that was in the center of the universe. Unfortunately, he didn't dare to put forth his ideas due to the Catholic Church. It was not until during the 17th century that a man named Johannes Kepler managed to prove Copernicus' theory. The idea wasn't fully accepted directly, but it changed the point of view of science at that time enormously. A scientific fact about the universe that had been so deeply rooted and believed for centuries had suddenly been totally diminished and dismissed. Another example of this type of scientific revolution occurred during the 19th century when scientists started questioning the belief that the Earth was created by God in only 6 days. A scientist named Charles Lyell studied the layers of sand on a riverbank and found that the deeper he dug, the tighter it was packed. He then ventured even further and stated that the mountains he saw in the area must have been formed the same way as the tightly packed layers of sand had been. What you see here is an original sketch made by Lyell during this time. Through these discoveries, he realized that the Earth must be much older than the 6,000 years that had been calculated with the help of the Bible. This, he stated, was because the process of sedimentation could not have created the size of mountains that he saw in that time. He also stated that it was impossible for the Earth to have been created in such a short time as 6 days. And so, also he challenged the Church with his groundbreaking theory. Charles Lyell had now proved that the Earth had to be much older than what was generally believed. It is said that, through his research, Charles Lyell had discovered time. What do these discoveries say about some of the things we see as non-changeable facts today? What is there to guarantee that some of them won't be as suddenly dismissed as the geocentrical model was 500 years ago? If scientists were wrong about the structure of the universe 500 years ago, and about the time it took to create it 200 years ago, what is there to guarantee that there isn't some magnificent scientific discovery around the corner from us, just waiting to turn our whole scientific world upside down?
What if, 100 years from now, we have found a risk-free way to cure cancer? One that does not require radiation and chemotherapy that breaks down not only the sick cells, but also the healthy ones? What if, all along, we were completely wrong about the climate change, and 100 years from now, scientists will sit in their offices, laughing at our feeble attempts to explain what is happening to the world around us? What if 200 years from now, we are traveling at speeds that we now view as utterly impossible? What if in the future, there are 3 different species of humans, just like there has been in the past? What if equivalents of Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, and Homo erectus will roam the earth and live side by side again?
In my opinion, science is one of the most rewarding subjects to study, simply because it's constantly evolving. Behind each of the amazing scientific discoveries that have been made in the past, and that will be made in the future, stands an extremely bright scientist who has the mind sharp enough to come up with a completely new idea, and the guts to stand up against society's deeply rooted views and norms to try to prove it. These people are my inspiration, and I can't wait to see who will personify them during my lifetime. What if it'll be one of my friends? What if it'll be me?